Hello and welcome to Maths by SAS. This is my fourth lesson of D2, chapter number 9, exercise 9C, that is about translation. In order to understand what is translation, what is the column vector that represents the translation, or how to find the object or image under translation, you have to watch the previous lesson, for which I'll give the link in the description box, because for the better understanding of lessons of maths, it's really important to integrate the previous lesson with the new lesson. Let's move to the intermediate level and let's read the question. Question says, under the translation T1, the image of point 5 and minus 1 is 2 and 3. Image of this point under T1 is 2 and 3, so it means 5 and minus 1 is the object and 2 and 3 is the image. It's really important to understand and underline important terms of the question. Under the translation T2, there is another translation T2, the image of the point minus 2 and 5 is 4 and minus 5. Find the image of the point 7 and 6 under the following: T1, T2, T1, T2 and T2, T1 and T1 square. So first of all, it's important that in order to find the image of this point under these all conditions, because every part involves either the translation vector T1 or T2, it's important to calculate the translation vectors first. So recall my previous lesson in which I gave you the idea that how to find the translation vector. Object for T1 is 5 and minus 1 and the image is 2 and 3. For T1, for the translation vector T1, this is the object and this is image. This is object and this is image. So what we have to do, that with the help of this information, first of all, I have to find T1 when is applied on object O, it gives me the image, okay, and translation vector T1 plus 5 and minus 1 equals to 2, 3, which is the image. So in order to get T1, I have to shift this 5 and minus 1 to other side, 2, 3 minus 5 and minus 1. Now do not forget the role of integers, that this minus sign has to be multiplied with every term inside the bracket. Okay, for understanding of this lesson, you should also have the command on the simplification of the column matrices 2, 3, and this will become minus 5 and minus multiplied by minus is plus. So the T1 vector will be 2 minus 5 is minus 3 and 4. So this is the T1 vector. Let me block the answer, minus 3 and 4. And now we have to find the second translation vector, that says that under T2, image of minus 2 and 5. Now for T2, minus 2 and 5 is the object and it maps onto 4 and minus 5. So under T2, this is the object, this is the image. So when T2 vector is applied, T2 is applied on minus 2 and 5, it gives me the image 4 and minus 5. Now T2 plus minus 2 and 5 equals to 4 and minus 5. T2 equals to 4 and minus 5 and minus 2 and 5. Now apply this minus sign on every term inside the bracket. Do not forget the role of integers, because the lessons of maths are really affected by these all basic concepts. 4 and minus 5 plus 2 and minus 5, and T2 translation vector is 4 plus 2 is 6 and minus 10. 6 and minus 10. Now we have both the translation vectors with us, and now let's move to the final requirement of the question, that we have to find the image of 7 and 6 under these conditions. So the A part is that I have to find the image of 7 and 6. T1 when will be applied on 7 and 6, what will be the answer? So T1 translation vector T1 is minus 3 and 4 plus 7 and 6, and that will give me 7 minus 3 is 4 and 6 plus 4 is 10. So T1 of 7 and 6, T1 7 and 6 is 4 and 10. Now let me block the answer first, because we can use this answer in the next working as well. The second is T2 7 and 6. So for T2 7 and 6, I have to take the object same, but the translation vector is 6 and minus 10 plus 7 and 6, and this will give me 6 plus 6 is 12, 13 and minus 4. This is answer of T2 7 and 6, and let me block the answer. And the third part, let me move to C part of the question. C part is T1 T2. Okay, now what we can do is we have to understand this in this way, that T1 and T2 has to be applied on 7 and 6 first. Answer of T2 7 and 6 is 13 and minus 4. It means that I have to apply T1 on 13 and minus 4, and T1 vector is minus 3 and 4 plus 13 and minus 4. 13 minus 3 is 10 and 0, and this is T1 T2 7 and 6. And let me block the answer. And now moving to D part. D part is T2 and T1. That means that we have to find the image of T1 7 and 6 in T2 translation vector, and answer of T1 7 and 6 is 4 and 10. T2 has to be applied on 4 and 10. Now the translation vector T2 is 6 and minus 10. 6 and minus 10 will be added to 4 and 10, and 6 plus 4 is 10, and minus 10 plus 10 is 0. So this will give me T2 and T1, and let me block the answer. This has to be applied on 7 and 6, and this will be the answer for T2 T1 7 and 6, and block the answer. And then the question says that we have to find the last part is T1 square, means that we have to find 2T1 of 7 and 6, and that means 2 into translation vector T1 comes minus 3 and 4 plus 7 and 6. Now this will become minus 6 and 8 plus 7 and 6, and it will give me 7 minus 6 is 1, and 6 plus 8 is 14. So the answer of T1 square is 1 with 14. Really easy question. I hope you are clear about the solution of this question. And one important thing that I have not done in the beginning, and I want to focus on that point, is that we have to find the image of the point. So if we look at the answer of T1 76 or T2 76 or T1 T2 or T2 T1, they are in the column vectors, but the question says that we have to find the coordinates of the image of the point. So these answers must be turned into point form, that is 4 and 10. 4 and 10, you have to focus on this point because this is the common mistake. That's why I'm doing it separately. And the coordinates of the image of 7 6 under T1 T2 will be 10 and 0, and again under T2 and T1 will be coordinates of the image will be 10 and 0, and for T1 square it will be 1 and 14. These are the coordinates of the image of that point. Do not forget this point. This is really important point. I hope you are clear about today's lesson. For next difficulty level, please catch me in the next class. Watch my lesson, like, share and subscribe the channel, and press bell icon to get the notification of every lesson in time. Thank you very much.